Nature's what heals, love is what heals. Bring it all back to here now. So we walk in nature, perhaps we go to nature for respite, for rejuvenation, for a sense of letting go of stresses, of worries, of actually letting go of stresses and worries. So nature has this profound healing property, this innate healing. It is an innate healing environment, and we go to nature to enjoy nature, but actually we are not separate from nature. It's just we've constructed lives where we appear to have removed ourselves from nature. We appear to be something other than nature because we've come so far from it. We've come so far away from nature, and that nature that heals is not just an external nature. It's not just the trees, the lands, the sky, the horizon, the vastness, the intricate patterns of leaves and flowers. That is not just what heals. That is the external reflection of our internal nature. This biological nature that stems from and works through the spirit that is its essence. This biological nature is the crystallization of this spirit. And so diseases, illness, dis-ease is a result of being apparently removed from nature. So we think we are something other than nature. We think we can keep nature out of our houses. We think we can live our lives independent of nature, when the fact is we are never independent of nature, because we are never as independent as we think we are as individuals. It's becoming clearer and clearer that we are all interdependent. We can be independent in terms of how we express our one single expression life, but each person is just part of a web of interdependency of the environment, oxygen, water, community. And so this healing property of nature, instead of just seeing it outside of ourselves, we need to return to it within ourselves, to recognise that we are part of the whole, and recognising this part of the whole gives us a certain sense of settling into ourselves. It lessens anxiety. It's like a releasing into what you are. Separate, you are not what you are. Separate, you are lost from that whole. That whole appears to be something other than what you are. It appears to be external to your nature, but your nature is not separate from broader nature. Your nature is that same nature. Our nature, human nature, is not different from the nature of the natural world, the stuff that turns the planets and shines the stars. It's the same nature. But we just pretend it's not. We pretend it's not for the purpose of an experience, just like we could live in the countryside all our lives. But nothing is really happening. It's just like it's a being. Nature is the expression of the pure being that we are, the pure spirit that we are. So in external nature, the trees, the lands, the lakes, the wind, we kind of unwind into our true nature, where there's just a peace and a stillness. And yet we build cities. Why do we build cities? Well, because This peace, this stillness is nurturing, it's harmonious, it is our true reflection of our true inner nature. But for the sake of experience, we yearn for something else. We yearn for more options. We yearn for something other than the nature that we are, to take us out from nature in order that we can learn of ourselves through something else, realise that's not it, and come back to nature. So it's all a journey to and from nature, to and from the nature that we are. And I think aligning to spiritual nature and aligning to the environmental, natural world, I think they're very closely connected. So as someone spends more time in the natural world, then they get in contact with their spiritual essence, perhaps. As someone gets in contact with their spiritual essence, perhaps they're drawn to the natural world. But yeah, there's also this impulse to go away from nature, to go into modernity, to go into cities, to go into towns. There's more happening, there are more options. These options may not be anything to do with who you are, but they can provide an experience of who you are through which you can learn. Nature is more of an integrating with the truth of who you are, whereas sometimes we prefer the illusion, we prefer to get caught up in what we are not, because it does provide a learning experience for us, so that we can one day come back to, or one moment come back to the true nature that we are. And if we live in the city, we get used to the city, we get used to its ways, we get used to the constructed precepts we live life by. It's like living life on terms other than nature's, and we get lost in the game of it, and we can enjoy getting lost in the game of it. We can build whole lives of getting lost in the game of it. We can build whole lives away from our nature, or apparently away from our nature, because in essence, just like spirit is always there, our nature is always there, and we're never going to escape it. We take ourselves with us wherever we go, and we take our nature with us wherever we go. We take our essence with us wherever we go, and so that's always going to be there, having some influence over our lives and our choices. But the more we spend time in the construct, in the created, sort of the man-made value systems of the world, this is like a system which exists on top of the natural principles of the world, of nature. We have humans as the extension of nature, never not nature, but we can build far away from our nature so it appears not to be natural anymore. So in one sense, these city lives we live, they are not nature, they are not in line with nature. In another sense, where it's all happening as it needs to, and these lives are kind of the extreme edges of a nature which is just seeking to learn about itself in different contexts. It's dreaming about itself in the furthest reaches of what it might be. And it goes out so far and realises, well, I've explored a lot, but actually these edges are not where I am. My nature is not in these non-natural expressions. My nature, the root of my nature is where all that was born from. The root of my nature is the nature that is the consciousness that gives birth to all forms, and is a formless essence running through all of us and all life, all of the time. It's the life essence. This is our nature. So spirituality is getting in contact with this nature, with being in touch with the essence of who we are rather than the construct of who we are. And And if people are operating in constructs, then this is quite a scary thing. Like, there's this. Spirituality is almost the last taboo within society, and it's the last taboo within society because it actually has answers. It actually, at its roots, beyond all the sort of the bullshit expressions of it that give it a bad name, spirituality, the core of it, is touching your own nature, your own truth, which is where you are. And this is your liberation, to know who you are. Because knowing who you are, you decide the course of your life. Life is deciding its course through the body-mind aspect of you. But if someone's invested their whole life in the construct, someone's invested their whole life in the value systems of the day-to-day world, in the symbols of prestige in the day-to-day world, the symbols of security in the day-to-day world, the symbols of success in the day-to-day world. If someone has spent their whole life working on the world's terms, if someone comes to them and says, well, that's not it at all, actually it's about knowing yourself and living from there, there's an instant block from the societal mind to that information, because it goes against all that it has built up in its life. It's an undermining, in a way. Someone talking about spiritual issues is undermining the value system of someone who hasn't considered spirituality. And because this whole world system is not based on spiritual values, this is like the locked cabinet, the locked door. It's the door to the self that we're kept away from, and we keep ourselves away from, by not looking beyond the limited mode, which is the mode of separation, which is the mode of time-space, which is the mode of physical reality is all there is, and my mind is attuned to this physical reality, and I get on with it day to day because you've got to survive. Yes, that's a part of it, but it's much broader. And if you're invested in a separate interest life, then someone who tells you that the interest is broader, like I say, it's a different value system, it's a whole different paradigm, and it's not going to be easily received. So this is why and how we get kept, or we keep ourselves within this cycle of meaninglessness, because meaninglessness breeds meaninglessness, and until we get off that cycle and expand our view to something more that sees we are not separate from our nature, we are integrated, we are the same nature that heals us. We can be healthy through aligning to our truth. Aligning to our truth is health, not I feel sick. Sick is the opposite to wellness. I live in this dualistic paradigm. I'm the separate part, so I feel sick, I don't feel well, I need a solution. And because I'm sick, I need a solution outside myself. So medicine. Okay, so we have this dualistic system maintaining itself. Health is outside. I imbibe something outside. I need to buy that thing from outside to make me better. Okay, that's a comfortable paradigm. I'm used to that. It's a give and take. It's a push and pull. I don't have something, I get it from outside. Or I have something, I give it to outside. It's like, this is the dualistic paradigm that we're stuck in, which keeps us away from seeing the whole. Because if we're only seeing in terms of opposites all the time, seeing in terms of, I don't have this, I would like this, I have, it's like we look in these terms and we miss the wholeness, we miss what encompasses it all. So love brings it all back together, because love is it all back together. Like, everything and all as one is love. everything and all as one is spirit. Everything and all as one is true nature, is the highest or the highest non-expression of nature, before nature is even born, the essence from which substance flows. So love brings it all back together. I mean, we see this in human situations. We can get annoyed with each other, and that annoyance just creates further problems. If we can actually get a bit of compassionate understanding flowing, if we can empathise, if we can see the other's point of view, if we can see beyond one point of view to another point of view, and we can see beyond even the other's point of view to the situation playing itself out, and all the causes that have gone into that situation, all the influences that have created that person and that person's perspective. If we can get that sort of love in there, then we can see beyond the limited investments of ourselves and others, and we can get a more rounded picture of the whole, which dissolves those kind of like difficult edges. It sort of dissolves those boundaries and allows true relating to happen, because what is it? Is each person interrelating with another is one aspect of love interacting with another aspect of love, which is just love learning of itself through these aspects. And we see this in ourselves as well. Like, if we do not love an aspect of ourself, we resist it, we reject it, we place it outside of ourselves. And love, the very nature of true love, is not dualistic, it's not inside and outside. The very nature of true love is that it is all one. So if we can love those bits that we've excluded, love those bits of ourselves that we don't like, then it helps to reintegrate them, it helps to bring them back in to ourself, to our whole self. And this is like the beginning of the universe. We blew out in love, we went out in love from essence into the substance that is the creation of the universe, and we come back in love. So it's all love, whatever way you look at it. It's love allowing conflict, it's love allowing resolution. It's very difficult to see love in those things like conflict that are not aligned to essence, to love. But taking this broader perspective, all that happens is the product of our imagining. And if conflict comes out of love, it's not love's it's not the fault of a pure essence love. It's the result of us not reflecting that love in its highest. It's a result of us taking that love and narrowing it down, so we've got such a separate interest to another aspect of love that has been narrowed down, that it comes into conflict. And yet it's just remembering that this conflict is a result of love seeking to experience itself. So although it might not be reflecting love in its highest, it is part of love forgetting what it is, in order that later there can be a resolution and a coming back in to the love we were born from and return to. And the love that when we recognise we are born again, we are born in the truth of who we are, in love. Being in love is not an attachment to another person. Being in love is a state of being. It's a statement of where you are. You are established, re-established in your true nature, the true nature that was never not you. So love brings it all back together, because love is it all back together. Love is wholeness. Less than love is less than whole. Means there are bits of yourself outside yourself. And remember, we said before, yourself is all of it. Yourself is all of it. So if you believe it's not all of it, then you're not close to the love that you are. If you can't accept that you encompass all of it and all aspects of it, and there's the potential for all to emerge within you. If you can't accept that, then you're far away from an understanding of wholeness. And yes, within wholeness, each person has their specific skills as a result of, the aspect of consciousness they're exploring, the experiences they've gone through. We all have different skills to offer. But that doesn't mean we don't all eventually have to bring it all back in together to shed our investment in a single part, and to see that we can have an experience of a single part whilst not being invested in it, whilst realising the greater unity that holds it all together. Yeah, so I touched on this a bit just now. Why do people reject spirituality? Well, because spirituality, like anything else, has been undermined by value systems which seek to perpetuate separation in order for their own profit over other people's loss, but also because as a result of that, and as a result of our own choices, we've built whole lives on something else. We've built whole lives away from our nature. Like I say, this is an important part of the process. We go away from our nature in order to come back to it. Doesn't mean that the transitions are not difficult. When we have a transition from one way of being to another, there is a shake-up. There are challenges to overcome in moving from a dualistic way of seeing to a universal way of seeing. It's like a different lens entirely. So why do people reject spirituality? They've built whole lives on something else, something other. And remember, there is no other. This is the point. People have built whole worlds on something other. There is no other. There is only one. There is only one, and you are that. So long as you are seeing another, you're not embracing all parts of yourself, because that other is you. That other is not separate from the oneness of the love that you are. To be established in the oneness of the love that you are, you have to recognise that all the parts are part of that same oneness, which is part of your greater self, that same oneness that is your greater self. Yeah, and when we're entrenched in the sort of limited, dualistic, survival is all there is kind of mentality and mindset, although we are not fulfilled in that, we can become comfortable in that. And comfort is something that we, of course it's great to have, but it's something we can easily stagnate in, because if the whole world is giving you messages that everything's insecure and you have got a degree of comfort, and you want to maintain that degree of comfort because you don't want to rock the boat too much, you don't want to lose what you've got. So we can get stuck in a limited mode of thinking and easily block out understanding that will take us further into our truth, that will take us back to ourself. And collectively, the whole society has kind of conspired to believe that all there is the separative paradigm. And I mean, yeah, of course there are people working in terms of community and doing good things and trying to bring people together, but are they trying to bring individual parts together, or are they seeing the whole and seeking to unite the whole together? What kind of perspective are we coming from? So we become embroiled in what we're not, but it's all okay because we see it. Eventually we see it. and we get back out of what we're not and into what we are. So we not just remove ourselves, but we work through the separation, see its limitations, and as we shed the separative, as the kind of tenacity of the separative self falls away, as we see beyond the separative self, we come back into truth. We return to simplicity, the simplicity of being, and this is the being that is our nature.